Hi guys, sorry I've not done a video for a while. I've been extremely busy. I'm getting married next month, so all of the time, effort, money, blood, sweat, tears, anger has all been going into the wedding, planning all of that stuff, and I've just not been out at all over Christmas. I had in my head that I wanted to go out dead baiting over Christmas, do a few videos. I did actually try one lure session. I went up to a place in Winsford in Cheshire, and I was there for 20 minutes and it was like an ocean. It was meant to be a river. It's usually quite a slowish sort of river, quite a wide river. It was just like the ocean. I couldn't find any slack water at all. So by the time my lady got back into Crewe where I live, I rang her and she come back and got me. It was just absolutely pointless. So that was the only time I've been out. So anyway, in a nutshell, I had a phone call off the father-in-law yesterday. He was going to Fishing Republic to get some bits and bobs from gift vouchers that we got him from Christmas and birthday, etc. And I asked him for some split rings. So he come back, give me some split rings, and he said, I've got your presents as well. And he come back with these, which are, as many of you probably know, they're the soft foreplay, Savage Gear soft foreplay, which you generally will rig them with a lip skull, or you'll rig them with you rig them weedless, anything like that. Hello, Elsie. You want a yogurt? Okay. Do you want to say hi to the camera? Yeah. You want to say hi? Come here then. Take this out a minute. You ready? Say hi. Hi. Say hi. Hi. Is Daddy doing fishing? Yeah. Yeah? Okay, say bye-bye. Bye. Right. Go on then, let me get the yogurt. Wait there a second. I'll be back in 1 sec. Sorry about that. My little girl wanted a yogurt, so needs must. Anyway, so as I was saying, yeah, you come back with a packet of these for me. So you get 2 in a packet. I think they're generally around £6-7, something like that, £5-6-7, something around them lines. And yeah, like I say, you rig them in all different ways. A lot of people put the corkscrews in, they'll put the weighted corkscrews and then rig them with stingers, things like that. But the thing that appealed to me the most is I believe that the branch of Fishing Republic that we are, we're near in Crewe, they're not dealing with Savage anymore. They're stopping dealing with Savage, so I've heard. So they were £1.32. Now £1.32 for 2 of these. Obviously they come just as the body itself. They don't come with any rigging or any hooks, anything like that. But £1.32. That's, you can't even get a loaf of bread for £1.32 now. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So he got me these, but there was only 2 left. So there was a packet that he's had and this packet. Now I've actually had quite good success on the. I don't know. This isn't the golden ambience. So I think the golden ambience has got the fire tiger stripes or the perch stripes. But whatever it is, anyway, the orange one, the goldfish. I've had quite a bit of success with them. But I've got loads. I've got probably 15-20 different varieties of these, different style. Well, probably just in the 19 centimetres, I've got a good 15 easy. Then I've got the 13 centimetres. I've got a few of the 9.5s, which I don't really tend to use unless I'm perch fishing or going for the summer chub, things like that. So it just got me thinking, what could I do with them? Because you're not limited as such, but if you're using them weedless, they're really designed to be fish weedless. So you can weight them down with the weights that you slide onto the hook. And then obviously you've got the lip skull version. I've seen a couple of people which they've just run them with stingers, so they'll have a corkscrew and then they'll just run them with stingers. I just wanted to try something different. So with one of them, I just thought, for £1.32, I may as well just have a go. So it inspired me with the line through trout. I've got about 5 or 6 of the line through trouts, different sizes, different sink rates, things like that. So I thought, well, I wonder if you could do something along them lines. So I had a look on YouTube. And did a Google search. Now what I've done, I'm sure somebody has done it and just not recorded it, but I couldn't find anything. So I just thought I'd share it with you because I personally think it's quite cool. And again, if you can fall on these, cheaply, that you can afford to potentially try it and it not to work. But I've taken the one out I've only taken it to the brook just down the road where I take the dog for a walk. Now there's no fishing there at all, but I just wanted to see the swimming action. And it's perfect, absolutely brilliant. So that was the body alone, and then that is the end result. So that's basically what they come out like. So on there, I make all my own traces up anyway. I've recently got into trying fluorocarbon, not to start a big debate on the comment section, but from the thing that made me take the plunge was Gord Burton. I was watching Gord Burton piking in Ireland, and he was on one of the big locks there, and I'm going Ireland in June. That was courtesy of my good lady. So I'm going Ireland in June. So if, in my opinion, because he's a very respected pike angler, which again some might disagree, but I think he's really, really good. I think he's very, very knowledgeable. But if he uses it and it's good enough for him, for personally, it's good enough for me. Now I do understand the wire situation, but anyway, this isn't fluoro, but you can use fluoro. So yeah, this is the Tronix Pro wire. Now this is the 50 pound, which realistically this size I'm going to be using on my up to 60 gram rod. You know, they come in at 60, 68 altogether. So I'll be using it probably on my 60 gram, 80 gram rod, something like that. I've got 2 or 3 which vary. But anyway, yeah, so that's the end result. So now what I've done, I'll just show you briefly what I've done, and then I'll show you how to make it as well. So you've just got the line through, which obviously is the trace wire, which is through there. So from the body alone, you've just got a piece of pipe that goes through there. Now I use the kiddie straw, one of the little tip-top straws. Use one of those, cut it to size, pushed it through first before I attached anything, glued it, melted it, things like that, just to make sure that it was okay. So that went through and I was pleasantly surprised. And now on the line throughs as well, I think quite a lot of people are doing this now, the modifier traces. So instead of the treble hook just going into the body and fitting into the body so then when the pike takes it, pulls it out, these modifier traces are designed to fit into the cavity of the line through trout. Now you've got, I believe it's just a little piece of plastic, like a little trough or, you know, shallow sort of area where that fits in. And then obviously the design is when you hook into a fish, the fish pulls on that, pulls it out, this slides up your line. So that leads me to that bit, which I have made with them. Now I've only got the 1.2 mil, these are just TIG welding rods, or TIG welding wire, which is obviously for welding. Now stainless steel, so that there is just bending. I mean my metal work isn't really the best, to be honest with you, at all when it comes to switching and bending. Very often I'll have a loop down here which is facing down, and then I'll try and replicate the same thing but the loop will be on the top, so I just get confused with it. But that's the one that I've basically done. Now originally I didn't have that bit on, I just had this, but I think there's a little bit more flex in there as well, so it might not swim straight. So I remade one, only takes 2 minutes, which again I'll show you soon, and that was that. So rigging wise, it is just exactly the same, well, practically exactly the same as the line through trout. So again, that just slots up into the belly in there, and then that just pushes in just like a universal stinger would do, and then that's it. That's how you go. And you know, you've got good presentation on there. So again, you're probably thinking, you know, what's the point, because you can already get these kind of rigging thing where they run through and then clip on the top, especially in the 13s. They're more common in the 13s than they are in the 19s. But it was just because I can. I just wanted to see it, well, I wanted to see if I could, and I can. It swims great. It's no doubt in my mind that it's going to handle a fish fine. And even though they're only £1.32, they will save your lures a little bit longer, because hopefully this will be outside the fish's mouth, so it can't rip it to pieces, it can't use the weight of the lure to throw the hooks. So that was that. So I just thought I'd share it, and I'll show you how to make it. Okay. Right guys, so what I used, the tools that will pretty much be needed are obviously your body, which is on there. That's just a little bit of lead that I had. You can use lead, you can use pewter, you can use shot, whatever you want to use. So that is just the lead inside there, which I just get my trusty blowtorch. I just get that, heat it up, obviously with the cooker vents on, windows open, doors shut, or ideally in the garage, but it's absolutely frozen today. So anyway, that was that. That's my little lead spoon, which is just a normal spoon I've put in the vise just to give me a little dripper. So that's that. For the mould of it itself, I just got this piece of oak that I just had in the garage. So what I did with that was I just got a Dremel. Got my Dremel with a little, I think it's like a little sanding sort of carving end, which that didn't actually come from Dremel. That come from in a cheap set that I bought years ago. But I thought, given I don't use it, I can potentially break it if that's the case. So yeah, just cut out, you know, the length that you want to make your lead slugs, and then obviously melted the lead, just filled it up and filled it in, which is, well, that was how it's meant to be. So also you're going to find beneficial to have some pliers, your split ring pliers, your jewellery pliers or wire benders, whichever one you want to call them. Some use these, some have got the ones which are just the 2 round ends. I've used both and I just personally find that these are a little bit better. Crimpy pliers, obviously for your crimps, and then just some wire cutters as well. And your TIG welding rods. So the TIG welding rods, they just come in a packet. I'll just do this one-handed. Sorry, you get close into my microwave for a second. Ooh. There we go. So yeah, TIG welding rods are just the stainless steel wire like this. I think they're about 12 inches these are. I usually use them, well, the 1.6 versions for my jerkbait traces, just because they're very, very cheap. These are about £2.50 and I get, I think it's 50, yeah, 50 or 60 that I get in there. So that was how I use those. And that's pretty much it tool wise. Oh, super glue as well, just to attach a little bit of straw in. Now I haven't put a little bit of straw on there because it's kind of self-explanatory given that's the way that it is a line through. So yeah, that's that. So they're your tools, and then I will just get prepped up a little bit better and I'll show you what else we need. Okay folks, so I've just put you on a little well, GoPro mount thing, a bendy thing. It's clipped onto my plate stand thing. So anyway, hopefully you can see me okay. So yeah, I'll show you the first thing then that we're going to be doing. The first job, I'll just move you down, make sure I can see okay. Yeah, bang on. Right, so the first job, oh, too far. Okay, first job is going to be heat up your soldering iron. So get that and don't go burning yourselves. So right, inside the cavity in these 4-play, you've got probably, I don't know, say about 12 mil, 12, 14 mil. This drops inside. So if you just hold that apart the best you can. Now I think the key to this, I was a bit concerned about them swimming straight, about the, you know, evenly balanced. But I think the key to it is you've practically already got a centre line to follow. So as long as you keep that to the centre, then you should be alright. So then with your soldering iron, apologies if the smoke goes up and gets in the way there, but just almost like a surgical operation. Just start etching away. Put that inside and say keep to the centre line, and that way you know that the weight's going to be bang in the centre. And don't let it go either because it'll just glue itself back up. Just get a little bit smoky as well. Yeah, so pretty much just following that same line that you've already got in there. So keep that nice and central. You don't want to go all the way through, obviously. So that should be enough. That's probably about another, I don't know, 5-6 mil, something like that. Keep that to the side. Okay, lovely. So all you've done there effectively is just make that cavity bigger. That's all, just so it can fit your lead slug in there. So say you've still got plenty of room in there, so it's not going all the way through into there, into the top, sorry, keep saying there, until it goes all the way through. So again, hopefully you can see that okay. So that's pretty much that section which is done for now. So chuck that aside, and then the second section, I'll just have to get me the extractor fan on, and I will just open the windows, open the door, and shut the door. So I'll be back in 1 second. Righto. So second job, or third job, whichever number we're on, is going to be get some fire. So windows are open, doors are shut, little mask on. What we're going to do now is heat up the lead. Now be really, really careful when you're doing this. To be honest, it is quite easy, but just don't, you know, be ignorant with it. Just be careful what you're doing. It's ridiculously hot, this stuff is. Okay, so that's melting down nice, and then it'd just be beneficial just to heat up your spoon as well. Okay, and then just scoop into your lead, and then just pour into the mould. Elsie, can you go out please, Babs? Okay, so that's that bit. We'll just eject Elsie. She just opened the door and she just ran in, and then I'll be back again. Sorry about that again. I just didn't really want Elsie being in here when I was doing the lead, and then she come barging in the door, so I had to stop that quite quick. Well, anyway, that's done. So basically, that's my slug of lead, which is inside there. Again, just to make that little cavity, I just ground it out just with a Dremel, or you can probably use a hand file or anything like that. So that's that bit. So before we go any further, the section, really, if you look at most of the line through trouts, the moderate sink, it tends to come out pretty much just in between the eyes there, so just at the back of the eye. So that's just a little piece of straw for there. Well, this is actually quite tough straw, that one is, so that's off a kind of WD-40. So again, you push it just into the back, just so it's got a half decent angle on it. Make sure you keep it straight, and then just push that through. You can kind of feel it coming through nice. So that then pops out in the centre. So that comes out like that. So then I think you can see the angle that you've got on there. So it just going across, which is pretty much the same as the line through trout. So that was that, and then all I did then was, because that's a bit pointed at the top, really if you've got a flat straw you don't have to do this, but I'll just cut it off to the same angle as the body. It just makes it a little bit more flush then. And then, excuse me being out of shot for 1 second, just realised that's slightly off. We don't want that. Okay, cool, that's better. Yeah, that's in the centre now, and that runs, yeah, that runs nice and central. So yeah, so anyway, that's all tucked in. Just still slightly off actually there. So I'll probably take the time, if you do find it, you push it through and it's, it's ever so slightly off, just do it again just in case. You don't want to get to the river and it ends up being, melt that off. You get to the river and it ends up just being on one side. I think sometimes it can have its advantages when they're not swimming perfectly, because it does look more in distress, but I think for doing it properly, I just think it's going to be probably just easier, a little bit less hassle. So maybe go from the top just to ensure that you're coming out in the bottom. I think as long as the main, actually you can feel it better when you go this way. I don't know why I just didn't do that in the first place. You can feel that a lot better. So again, push that through, that same angle as the line through, I think, just to give it the most success. I keep going out of shot as well, sorry. There we go, brilliant. So that's all the way through, so that's nicely in the middle. That's pushed all the way down to the side. There you go, comes out there nicely, just again like the line through would do. So that comes out nice. And then what we'll go for now is just trim that bottom off now, so you can see inside in there. So that goes all the way through nicely in the centre, comes out nice at the top, just at the top there, that's nice and flush. Then trim that off to the same angle that the body's at as well. There we go. So that's all nice and flush now, you can see that. So still the same. And then obviously you've got your cavity in there, you've got the bit that comes out, your straw, keeps everything nice and flush. That's that. Now we need our slug, which hopefully is cooled down. There we go. Yep, nice and cool. So there's a slug. Looks a little bit grim, but it's there to serve a purpose. Now I tried this both ways. I thought that it's going to be better to put it in with the pointy end going in there to the same contour, but you get quite a big bulge there, so there's a bit more of a lip to close up. So I think that over stress and, you know, being caught, things like that, I don't think it'd work as well. So I found personally it's going to be better to put the flat end in first, and then you've got the contour. If you just give that a little bit of a stretch as well, so that just sits in nice, and then you've just got less to physically close it up. So that was that. That's inside there, that's all done. So weight wise, I mean, these ones, I did one before, and like I said, it come out at 60, I think 60, 68 or something like that, which would just be enough just to take it down that little bit further. So you can keep that in, make sure it's all nice and central, and then just get your soldering iron and just quickly run it on the inside, just so it starts to melt. And just do that on both sides. Apologies about the smoke as well, if that's going up into the camera. And then just close it too, just hold it and close it too. And then the beauty with these plastics, I mean, it's a well-known fact that you can just remake them yourself after they've been ripped to pieces. You know, they are really renowned for that, really good for it. So just get in all the little holes and the cavities that you've got in there, just to seal it up properly. And then I personally just do a couple of little circular strokes on there as well. It just binds that section a little bit nicer as well. And then that should be cool. And then just do the front bit as well, just around where the straw's coming out there. Mind your fingers as well. I've just had myself before and it hurt and it made me swear, and now I'm sweating. So that on there, and close that to over the top. There you go. So it's not the prettiest job, but I really don't think the pike are going to mind, and it works. Well, it seems to have worked anyway. So that's that, and you can get a little bit of the excess plastic as well, you know, to fill in any little holes and what have you. You can, that's again another beauty of it. You can just tamper with it, make it nice and smooth at the sides. Because my soldering iron's a little bit got quite a bit of carbon on it as well. It does leave little black speckles, but okay, so that is all sealed up. Lovely, so that's all sealed. Wait for it to cool properly, and you can put a fair bit of pressure on that, and that isn't going to open very easy, he says as he just split a tiny little bit. The other one didn't because I left it for longer. So again, just pop that in, a little bit of heat, squeeze it too, and just give it a little circular motion. I think the circular motion just sort of makes the plastic overlap each other. The plastics just overlap, so you get a little bit more binding. Cracking. So that's that. So that there now is all sealed up. Relatively cool. So that is the bulk of it done. That is practically the bulk of the lure done. Again, it's all sealed up there. You've got your tube that goes through to act as the line through section. That there is done. Now in these sections here, because obviously it's a silent lure, you can put some of the glass rattles. I do like the Savage Gear glass rattles that you get, so you can chuck some of those in there, a couple of those just to give it a little bit of noise on the movement. You know, I mean, that doesn't impede the action in any way. And I thought it might have been slightly top heavy, or again, I was wondering if it's going to go to the side. But if it goes a little bit to the side, it doesn't have to swim perfectly like that. If you find that it's jottering ever so slightly to the side, don't worry about it, because it looks more in distress. As much as we don't tend to get as many vivid orange fish in the UK waters as we might do, as we could do, or you know, It's just how it goes, just ignore me mumbling. So that is practically finished. You just have to make the trace now, which I'll go and I'll get the wire and show you how to do that. So that's all good, that's all good. And there's the body of the fish done. So we'll be back again in a second. I'll just go and get my C-plies and then crack on. Okay, just moved you from the kitchen into the living room, a little bit warmer. So for this part now, so there was the body, all sealed up, all nice and strong. You can really put a fair bit of pressure on that and it doesn't go anywhere. So that's all bound together. Again, bit going through. Now, the traces that I make up, which are these ones, if I can get one undone, they were the £50 wire. I mean, as long as your straw or your little plastic tube or pipe allows it, you can go heavier if you want. I generally tend to fish with £30, £50 and £111 traces, depending what I'm fishing and how I'm fishing. Primarily to get my lures back. You know, if you lose them, it's not so bad when you're paying £1.34 for two, but when you're spending 20 quid on some of the American imports especially, you want to make sure you get them back. So right, so that there then, just want to make sure first that runs nice and smooth all the way through. You don't want to get any bits of plastic in there. Now remember, we haven't glued this yet either, so don't worry about that for now. So that on the inside, so that runs through. You want to make sure that runs nice and smooth, in which that does. So put that to one side for a second. Now for the metalwork side, now again you'll have to apologise, my metalwork, it really isn't the best. Again, I really confused myself. So basis, get your jewellery pliers, just make a nice shoulder on the top. Try and keep it all nice and straight if you can. Keep that going all the way around, so you're left with that. So that's what you want at the first go. And then all I do then, you find it's easier to twist the longer bit of wire than it is the others. Try not to catch the camera in the process. So hold that and just give it two nice tight wraps around there. So as tight as you can. Try and keep it in picture. And then come back out just off centre. There we go. So you get something that looks like that. So that bit will just act as the first spike, and then what you want to do then is you have to just get your pliers again and measure where you want that to come out. Bearing in mind you're going to have a crimp on there as well. I've made that mistake so many times when I've been re-rigging the line through traces. So I've always not left enough for the crimp, and because you've got a certain slot which the either the modifier or the treble hook will go into, sometimes you can leave yourself a little bit short. So just remember that that's going to be there. Now it doesn't really matter which way round you go with that, but generally ideally you're probably going to be looking somewhere around there for the hook to sit. So just a little bit this way of the centre of the body. So you don't obviously want to go into here because then it can affect the action. You can run stingers as well if you want to. You can just have your treble that hangs off here, and you can put another stinger at the back. As long as it's got a little bit of slack line, it's not going to affect the movement. So again, that's for there. So if we base it on, say about there, that's probably going to be what, say about ½ an inch, just over. So then you want to get that then, and you want to make another. So I have to keep pressing the camera because it keeps going off. I can't see what I'm doing. So you want to just do exactly the same thing again with that side. So go one side, go the other to keep it nice and even, and then when them two meet, go back to the newest side and just keep going round. Keep pressing around, like that until you get that shape again. So there's that. You find this one is ever so slightly higher, but that means that it'll just sit up a little bit nicer. It'll sit nice and flush. You can just make it ever so slightly bigger, and then they'll both sit the same, but I don't really think it matters at all. Well, I'm not going to lose sleep over it anyway. So again, you'll hold that now, and you want to just go back round with your tight wraps, 2 or 3, as long as they're nice and flush and nice and tight, and this is always where I mess up. So just keep that all nicely together, like that. So there's 1. And there's 2. And they'll come out in the middle of those 2 wraps. There you go. So that is what you're left with. Okay, a little bit untidy, it could be nice and flush like that, but again, it doesn't really make a difference. As long as it's all nice and tight and it's nice and level. It's the whole unit, that is, not my wraps. There we go. So you can bend that back in if you want to, but personally you can have that going off to the side. It'll just give you a little bit more grip to the body itself. So yep, so that's pretty much how they're going to sit. And then just trim one of them off a little bit higher, just so you can put like another little shoulder in there, just to give it a tiny little bit of a hold. So if we go, say about that should, no, a tiny bit higher, that should be fine. So that's that. And then we want to just give one of them just a little bend on it, down and round, and then just close that too a little bit, just to give it that tiny bit of grip. Just open that up a little bit, and there we go. So that there is what we're left with. So that is pretty much the trace. Again, the 1.2, the 1.6 might be better. I mean, it's a lot harder to work in small areas, especially if you haven't got leverage, so you might have to use 2 pairs of pliers if you're using a 1.6. But the bulk of the weight is on there. You know, well, say the bulk, that is all of the weight. So that's not going to do anything. You know, you might find with a big fish maybe, or you know, a thrashing fish or a snag, it might bend up slightly, but there's a lot of weight. It's going to take a lot of weight to actually do anything to that. So that there is where the weight is, and that isn't going to go anywhere. This bit's here are primarily just to keep hold of the fish. Now, bearing in mind, because you've got lead, which is inside there as well, you want to miss that when that actually sits. Well, actually it'd be that way. So when that sits against the body, so the lead stops there, so that is where I want this one to be. So that'll just miss the top section there. You could make them even longer and for them to come out at the top, but I think that it might either rip your lure a little bit when you're in and outing, given it's going to be force which pulls it out as a line through does, but we're going to be hitting that one there, so I need to take a tiny bit more off this one. Take that one to about there. That'll be fine. Oh, chucking it on the floor. Never good. Ugh. Right, so again, yep, there's that. I will get better at making these videos, I promise. Okay, so that's it. That there's what we need. So then now for this bit, you want to just before you go pulling everything through and doing it all, make sure that it all goes in nice and it all fits in without hitting all of that lead. There you go. So that runs nicely down the centre of the body as well. You've got to make sure that this is nice and level. If that's off to the side, you have got the weight of the hooks, which can probably throw the action as well. Again, I haven't tried it. I might do one and, you know, put one on twisted and just take it off, put it on twisted just so I can see. But that is effectively the trace hold in there. So I like to leave a little bit more room there just so the crimp isn't pushing up on there. Again, we've got to glue this in yet, but I just want to get the metal work and everything done. The gluing, it's pretty boring watching really, me just dabbing super glue and sticking my fingers to my chin. So yeah, that's that. And then what we go for now, just obviously remember which way it is. So the little shoulder is on the back side. So that there's on the back side of the lure. And then we get some hardware. Probably go with one of the Savage 4s. I think the Y trebles are really good hooks. These are ones that I've actually taken off some of the bigger line throughs that I got, because I just thought that they'd work slightly better with the size 2.0. Yeah, no logic really behind that, just one of my big ideas. So that was in there. And then we get one of our crimps. If there's enough room, you can double crimp them as well. I am a big believer in double crimping. I just think you've got a lot more security there, but I tend to go, I don't just go in and then go back through. If I can, I'll go in, go back through and go back again, but these are just cutting it fine, but they're super strong crimps, so I don't really think that you're going to need it. Now the first one that I made, I put that on like this, crimped it all up, and then realised, how am I going to get that through the fish? So don't be a sausage like me. And then just double check again that goes through nicely. In which it does. And now we can glue the top in. And then we're almost finished. I'll just go and grab my glue and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so got my glue. Take that off a little bit. So if we get the straw now, because we know where it's coming out, it's already going to have a little pathway through there. Get the straw, just remember which way you've taken it out and which angle as well, because you've cut it off to suit the body. And then get your glue. Got gloved up for this as well, because I really am terrible with super glue. I do actually stick my hands to myself, and to my chin, and to my face and my nose. So I just put a little bit of glue, just running all the way down the underside as well, to make sure it's good coverage on there. That should be fine without dripping all over my table. So we use that from that way, and then you just want to pop him back through, and then that should come out where we want, which is there. So that's all in, all nice and flush. And then fill a little bit of the glue in there as well. Put the nozzle in there as well. Give that a good seal so you don't get any water that sits inside the cavity where we might not have melted it up correctly. But I mean, I'll probably go back over this after and just tidy it up a little bit. It's always typical, isn't it, when you start filming something, it never comes out as clean as the first one does. Right, so that is that. So that's how we're playing with that. That's all done. And then just wait for that to dry. Probably just take a couple of minutes or so. Get my gloves off. Actually, I'll just run that line through quickly, just to make sure that nothing's clogged up with any super glue. A bit of plastic on the end. Lovely. Right, so as that's drying up now, to be honest, you don't actually have to wait for it to dry fully, because it's not really going to have any pressure put on it, but just mind your fingers. Okay, so then we put this through the body, again through a little straw. If I can find it, there he is. Okay, so that goes through. And then remember which way that your trace went round. So our trace is on sitting that way. So then the crimping end is going to be that side. So get your crimp, put that on. A bit of dry super glue there. Beautiful. Okay, so crimp's on. Chuck on our modify trace. That through. There's just not quite enough room to go back again on this, but because it's such a snug fit, I trust these crimps. I know these crimps are good. So put that too. Don't pull it too tight, because then you do want a little bit of movement there as well. And then we'll get our crimping pliers. Nice and level each side. Give that a good crimp. Brilliant. And then we take the tag end. I always like just pulling it round slightly. If it does start to slip, it just gives it that tiny little bit of shoulder there just to recatch. So there's that. Trim the excess rubbish off. So that is pretty much that. So we're all crimped up in there and we're all sorted. And then now for the hardware. So this is where you can all have a laugh at me trying to do split rings now. Got 1 finger and 5 thumbs. Okay, so get our split ring. Again, probably use, you know, slightly bigger ones on these. I mean, these are £30. I like using the £30 because I think I've said in one of my other videos that I saw it on River Piker advice. Paul said that if you want your lures back, you can drop down to lighter split rings. So then if you do get in a snag, you're pretty much just going to be losing your hook. You know, you're going to pull out, you're going to straighten that split ring. But equally, a £30 split ring, it's going to be a bloody hell of a fish for you to, you know, to pull that out and to straighten that out. So then we get our hook on. My word, this isn't going good. These are literally my kryptonite. I'm absolutely awful with these again. I might just take up golf. It might be a little bit easier for me. But they are quite cheap split ring pliers as well. I had some Whitewood ones that were fantastic, but I haven't got a clue where they've gone. Now, so I don't have to torture myself twice and go through that. I personally just like to put this on now while it's already on and the hook's keeping it open for me. I just find it a little bit easier. So push that in again, slide that round into there, and then all you've got to do then is punish yourself once by tightening it up. So give that a good tighten, move it round. There we go, cooking with gas. And they're both on. So there's that. So that is that. And then obviously your glue's still setting, so don't stick your fingers to it again. And then we've already made the little hole for that. That slots in nicely in the middle. That sits nice against there. All nice and central. And that is that. So you see, that's the benefit there of leaving that tiny bit of room. I mean, you're going to have a bit of force there from casting. If you can see on there, I can't see myself, the camera's gone off again. But you've got a little bit of play there. So I think if the crimp's any higher up, you don't really want it to dislodge your straw or your tube, whichever you're using. So that is pretty much it. Again, exactly the same principle as a line through. Fish takes it, that pulls out, that slides up the line. This is in the mouth, it can't use the weight of the lure to throw the hooks, and equally it's not going to rip your £1.34 lures to pieces. But again, it's for the price that I paid for them. This was purely an experiment. I just wanted to see if I could do it. You know, and like I said before, I'm sure somebody's done it before, I'm sure people use it all the time, but I was quite chuffed. So I just thought I'd share it because I couldn't find any videos on there. So if anybody's got loads of these lying around, they're a bit of a pain as well sometimes if you're trying to get them deeper. I mean, yeah, obviously you can weight them up. I think it's a little bit easier if you're using the weedless hooks and you're using them because you put the weight on there, but then the hookup rate on the weedless isn't always the best because the hook is coming out here, so it's nice and flush to the body, so you need that bite down to physically make the hook protrude and then to get your hook up. But I don't think that they're actually the easiest. But when you're fishing with a lip scull, you know, again, you've only got a certain depth that you can really run them to, and because you've originally got the flap that runs down the side here, that catches the water, so that keeps them a bit more buoyant as well, I found anyway. But when you're sealing these up, you're probably going to have a little cavity there, so you do just want to make sure that there's no water. Or what I might actually do is just leave that open, so then there's more chance of that water escaping. There's only a tiny little hole there, it doesn't make a difference at all to the movement, the lure or anything, but you know, if you want this to be a sinker, if it does have a little bit of water in it, it's only going to get down a little bit more, isn't it? But you don't really want it to be rotting or, you know, stinking. I've had a couple of lures which have held water before, and when I've opened my box after about 3 or 4 weeks, they've stunk. It's been horrible, stagnant. But that's that anyway. So again, you can run them a little bit higher up if you want, and then put a stinger on the back. There's no right or wrong on them, but I just thought it was quite a good little tip. And always make your traces a little bit longer as well. That's something that I don't believe that a lot of shop bought traces are long enough. You know, I've had a couple of fish before in the past which have really engulfed, especially on the reservoir where I normally go, a local reservoir.
they always seem to really take from the back. So if that force, you know, that's in the mouth, and then that force just keeps going. So some of these, the line through trouts, they come with a trace which is no longer than 25 centimetres, say, well, 20-25 centimetres. It's just not enough, in my opinion. You know, more chance of last thing you want to do is leave one of these, especially with a stinger as well, inside a fish. It's not cool. It's just not what we do. So that's that. So I hope you like the video. Some of you might think it's an absolute total waste of time, but others of you might find it a little bit helpful, and if you do, then fantastic. You know, it's really cheap to make. You buy the rods, you get loads of them in a packet, you've got them forever. You know, and again, you can make your jerkbait traces out of them as well. So I hope you find it liked. I can't even talk. Hope you found it good. Right, so that's it, guys. Super duper fantastic, thank you. If you do like what I'm doing, I am going to do more. It's just with the wedding and everything, it's been a bit tricky recently. But if you do like what I'm doing, then feel free to subscribe. I'll just be popping little random bits and bobs like this up, and also just some days fishing. I'm trying to work on making them a little bit shorter videos as well, because I just seem to waffle on a bit, but some of you might like listening, some of you might not. But I always put a little option to skip forward to the main part, as opposed to listening to me whining on. So right, I'm doing it again, so I'm going to go. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.